Hi, welcome to this MOOC on media laws and ethics. Today we are going to learn about morality and ethics. So at the end of this module, you will be able to understand what is ethics and what is morality. To begin with, let's discuss what is morality. We perform a lot of actions in our day-to-day life. We take a lot of decisions in our day-to-day life. But how do we evaluate them, or how do we know whether something that we do or we think is right or wrong? I think these are judgments which can be understood best if you have a thorough understanding of what morality is. Let's look at a few scenarios. The image that you are currently looking at is an example of a transit advertisement. This advertisement has been put up by Channel 4. Channel 4 is a television channel in UK, London. This is for a particular show called Naked Attraction that the channel runs. This particular series is a dating series in which one can choose his or her partner after viewing their naked body parts. In fact, such an advertisement is completely prohibited, or it's not possible, and it would right away be banned in India. So people have objected to this advertisement in UK, in London, saying that such an advertisement would put the lives of children at risk of being subjected to sexual assault. Let's look at scenario 2. This is something quite familiar to all of us: Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. You must be remembering that at least about 87 million people's data were acquired by a third-party application called This Is Your Digital Life, and all these data were used to influence people, their political preferences, etc. And it's a huge scandal that we are quite familiar with. Now let's look at scenario 3. This is a familiar but perhaps an old commercial of Saint-Gobain glass, and it's pretty humorous to watch. But the only issue with this commercial is that the woman who is working as a servant is a black woman, and she is also portrayed as a plump looking woman, which is questionable. In this context, I think we must talk about women's portrayal and representations in soaps and serials in different languages in the context of India. Some women are presented as sweet-natured, domestic, and they are non-competitive. On the other hand, some women are presented as villains, and they are aggressive, and they are dominant, etc. We must also be familiar with this particular picture wherein we see Snowden, and he's blowing a whistle. So this exemplifies the instance of whistle blowing. What did he do? He was working for the US government, and he did bring to the public the fact that the US government was indulging in mass surveillance, taking and acquiring people's data and using them against these people themselves. So he said that this is completely unethical, and therefore he said that this is something which the world should know about. On the other hand, the American government claims that he has violated the Espionage Act of the US government. Now here we are looking at another instance which is called plagiarism. That's one of the reasons why the Indian government, and especially Ministry of Higher Education, has insisted on introducing a new course titled Research Ethics for PhD scholars. So apart from the regular courses that PhD students have been doing, this is another course that they are supposed to be doing in order to understand what kind of ethical practices students are supposed to be following, or they ought to follow. This is another instance that I am giving. It's a news report on Indian media published by the Ethical Journalism Network, which is an international journalism watchdog. So the title of this report is Untold Stories: How Corruption and Conflicts of Interest Stalk the Newsroom. And it has actually identified the problems with journalism in 18 countries, and India is one of them. And it has identified about 5 problems that plague newsrooms in India, but I am actually touching upon a few of them. One is paid news, and we've come across this particular term. Paid news is quite commonplace. People call this envelope journalism, and there are a lot of other terms which are used to refer to this particular concept called paid news. The other one is blackmailing, and the third one is flawed measurement of audience reach and readership. In fact, like we came across the news about TRP ratings and how they are being manipulated in order to attract the eyeballs of advertisers. So in fact, intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code rules 2021, which the government has introduced, the Indian government has introduced, actually discusses what are the guidelines that are supposed to be followed by digital journalists. In fact, it was said that these rules actually stymie freedom of expression, and some of them went to the court, and but the government says that these are rules that need to be followed. It's not actually possible within the scope of this particular module to talk about what each and every country has formulated in terms of moral guidelines and ethical guidelines, etc. So here we are talking about China. China has banned sissy men who are considered to be effeminate. So such sissy men characters, I think China government has objected to. Chinese government has objected to such portrayal. So the government is saying that more masculine modes of portrayal and representation should be encouraged in the entertainment industry. So these are all quite a few examples that would help us understand different scenarios relating to morality and ethics. Now, I will leave it to you to arrive at a conclusion as to how or what decision you would take with respect to these scenarios. In fact, we are going to come across similar scenarios in our life, in our day-to-day life, and more so in the context of media organizations. Let's look at what morality is. Morality is derived from Latin word moralitas, which is roughly translated into manner or proper behavior. Morality is referred to as customs, habits, norms, and mores of a society or a community. It refers to rules that are used to regulate one's life. They are not necessarily written rules. Customs followed in one society may not be the same in another society. Also, morality changes over time and with time. Imagine a road in a city without traffic rules. It will be utter chaos if there are no traffic rules. Likewise, moral rules are also important in our life. There are a few moral rules listed here. Be fair, help people, do not hate fellow human beings, respect elders, be brave, keep promises, etc. For instance, take the case of keep promises. What if I tell lies? I should have the conscience that this might harm people, and at the same time it's a moral rule which is also not accepted by the society. In a tribal community I had visited a few years ago, the community exhibited a strong sense of solidarity, a strong sense of togetherness. They build their own small huts. The entire community joins hands in this act. Thus, moral values are different across different societies, different communities, and different cultures. For instance, during the times of Aristotle and Plato, abortion was something that was accepted in societies. But later, we have come to know that in several societies, abortion is something that is completely unacceptable, for several reasons, of course. And even in US, it was only in 1973 a judgment was passed legalizing abortion. Till such time, abortion was something that was unaccepted. Now here, I think I must quote a few examples. I was watching a series called The Good Doctor, wherein you find a black doctor, American doctor, refusing to perform abortion for a patient, and she says that her religion does not allow her to do it. So she has religious convictions which prevents her from performing this abortion. So morality works in this way. So in one society, according to religious principles, for example, wearing shorts is morally wrong, much the same way performing abortion is morally wrong. Morality deals with specific problems and their solutions. and is constituted of feelings, thoughts and actions connected with the distinction between what is right and what is wrong. And this is what Zygmunt Bauman and Immanuel Kant say, and is thus more intimately related to concrete action and specific situations and negotiations. In this context, I would like to go back to the example that we discussed some time back. In the example where the black female doctor was guided by her religious convictions, she decides not to do the abortion when the chief doctor comes to her and tells her that it is her ethical duty to do it. But at the time of surgery, this female doctor is controlled by her religious sentiments and feelings and her personal experiences. Thus, an individual comes to a moral conclusion after the person responds to one's own thoughts. And this is not how ethics is going to be. Ethics, on the other hand, is outside of an individual. We will discuss that later. Moralities are human constructions. Therefore, there are many kinds of moralities. We can at least look at two types of moralities here. One is conventional morality, in which the body of conduct is sanctioned by the custom or the habit of a group. So, a community or a society or a group is going to dictate whether something is right or wrong, and we tend to follow this particular practice. The individual is a member of this particular group or a community or society. We have another type of morality, which is religious morality, in which the conduct is sanctioned by the principles and dictates of religion here. Morals refer to an individual's own preferences and how something is regarded as right or wrong through such personal principles. Now, let us try to understand morality in two ways. One is in a descriptive sense, the other one is what is known as in a prescriptive sense. In a descriptive sense, morality refers to personal and cultural values and mores in a society and customs that individuals follow. Primarily, descriptive sense of morality focuses on trying to understand what moral beliefs, for instance, do tribal people follow with respect to marriage. This helps in understanding the actual practices of people in a particular time, in a particular location, in a particular place. Thus, there can be more than one standard of morality, because this is going to vary from society to society, culture to culture, and community to community. Now, let us look at the normative, which is also called the prescriptive sense of morality. In this sense, morality questions the validity of the customs, beliefs or code of conduct that people follow. It is not about trying to understand what practices people follow or adhere to, but rather we are trying to understand the legitimacy of such customs and beliefs. Such a questioning of customs is used to ascertain the rules that people must follow in order to be morally good. Thus, what people practice and follow is different from what is prescribed. So, morality explained through the question of what ought to be. So, what is the right conduct is explained in a normative sense. In the brief discussion that we have had so far, we have tried to understand what morality is. Morals are principles that individuals adopt based on what a society tells them to do. So, there are a lot of customs and habits and norms that we follow, because people have been practicing this for years together. So, based on this, we decide and we arrive at a conclusion whether such an action is right thing to do or a wrong thing to do, whether something is good or something is bad.